Good morning. Our thought for today is taken from part of the story of Joseph from the Old Testament, from Genesis. And I'm going to read to you part of that story, which you will find in Genesis chapter 45 and the first 15 verses. And today I'm using the Message version. Joseph couldn't hold himself in any longer, keeping up a front before all his attendants. He cried out, "Leave! Clear out, everyone leave!" So there was no one with Joseph when he identified himself to his brothers. But his sobbing was so violent that the Egyptians couldn't help but hear him. The news was soon reported to Pharaoh's palace. Joseph spoke to his brothers. "I am Joseph. Is my father really still alive?" But his brothers couldn't say a word. They were speechless. They couldn't believe what they were hearing and seeing. "Come closer to me," Joseph said to his brothers. They came closer. "I am Joseph, your brother, whom you sold into Egypt. But don't feel badly. Don't blame yourselves for selling me. God was behind it. God sent me here ahead of you to save lives. There has been a famine in the land now for 2 years. The famine will continue for 5 more years, neither ploughing nor harvesting. God sent me on ahead to pave the way and make sure there was a remnant in the land, to save your lives in an amazing act of deliverance. So you see, it wasn't you who sent me here, but God. He set me in place as a father to Pharaoh, put me in charge of his personal affairs, and made me ruler of all Egypt. Hurry back to my father. Tell him, your son Joseph says, I'm master of all of Egypt. Come as fast as you can and join me here. I'll give you a place to live in Goshen, where you'll be close to me. You, your children, your grandchildren, your flocks, your herds, and anything else you can think of. I'll take care of you there completely. There are still 5 more years of famine ahead. I'll make sure all your needs are taken care of. You and everyone connected with you. You won't want for a thing. Look at me. You can see for yourselves. And my brother Benjamin can see for himself that it's me. My own mouth telling you all this. Tell my father all about the high position I hold in Egypt. Tell him everything you've seen here. But don't take all day. Hurry up and get my father down here." Then Joseph threw himself on his brother Benjamin's neck and wept. And Benjamin wept on his neck. He then kissed all his brothers and wept over them. Only then were his brothers able to talk with him. So, a very familiar story probably to most of you. Joseph, having spent years in a prison, in fact, right from the beginning, not knowing whether he, as the song would say, live or die. During lockdown, one of the big pluses was being able to watch some of the hit West End musicals on the YouTube stream, The Shows Must Go On. I spent a wonderful evening singing along to my heart's content, with only Ian to annoy, as the story of Joseph and his amazing technicoloured dreamcoat unfolded. Do you remember the song from that musical, "Close Every Door to Me"? when Joseph proclaims his faith in the God who is with him no matter what things happen to him, no matter how bad things get. I was an only child, so I never had to compete for attention from my parents. But you have to feel sorry for Joseph's brothers, as Jacob, their father, made it perfectly clear that Joseph was his favourite. Remember the beautiful multicoloured coat. And then Joseph happily tried to lord it over his brothers, sharing with them so kindly the dreams that marked him out as superior to all of them. You might even feel that really he had it coming when the brothers finally sold him to some Ishmaelites who took him off to Egypt. If you've never read the story in Genesis, have a go or read a children's version. It's really an exciting and interesting story. Times got very tough for Joseph, and he must have wondered what on earth was going to be the outcome. Possibly not good at all. But amazingly, through a number of coincidences, or perhaps we as Christians might say God-incidences, Joseph became Pharaoh's right-hand man and was able to save not only the Egyptians from 7 years of terrible famine, but his own father and brothers, and bring them to a new life with him in Egypt. And so, to today's reading, the point in the story when Joseph revealed himself to his brothers, who naturally were shocked, ashamed, and no doubt terrified at the revenge that they thought was about to come down on their heads. But in verse 5, Joseph declares, "Now do not be distressed or angry with yourselves because you sold me here. For God sent me before you to preserve life." And then again in verse 8, "So it was not you who sent me here, but God. He has made me a father to Pharaoh and lord of all his house and ruler over all the land of Egypt." So throughout the whole of his life, Joseph knew that his life was in God's hands, not in men's hands. And this enabled him to keep going, and then to forgive and to be reconciled to the brothers who had wanted to be completely rid of him. There are many places in the Old Testament where we can see pictures which lead us into our understanding of the life and death of Jesus. Joseph's story is a forerunner of how Jesus gave himself up in order to bring forgiveness and life to humankind. Jesus was and still is God with us, so that when life is tough and painful, and I know it is for many of you and many other people around our world right now, we can know, like Joseph, that God is with us and will bring us through. We are not alone. I'd like to share with you now a video which is entitled Scars, and it's by Dan Stevens.